For years, I've heard from friends that Hollow Knight is a great game. I had tried multiple times before, but always bowed out after playing for a few hours. I'm happy that after finally getting through it all, they were right, that the game, at least the latter half, is one of the most brilliant Metroidvanias ever. The issue for most, though, is just how long it takes before it hits those lofty heights. The complete edition of the game is on Game Pass for console and PC, so let's break it down and see if it's worth your time in the XboxEra review of Hollow Knight, Voidheart Edition. The game was originally released back in 2017 by Team Cherry out of Australia. It ended up coming to Xbox in 2018 and joined Game Pass in 2021, and has had 4 expansions since its launch. The story takes place in a decrepit kingdom known as the Hollow Nest. You are the knight, and slowly but surely, you'll restore the town of Dirtmouth and the surrounding kingdom to some semblance of its past. With multiple endings available, and all of the expansion content included in this Voidheart edition, it is one heck of a package to play through. Completing everything across Xbox and PC took me over 35 hours. And let's get into the nitty-gritty of it all because, boy, was it hard to stick with for the first half of the game. Thankfully, the controls are tight as a drum. A is your jump, X is your attack, B is your focus, which you can either hold to heal, or you'll unlock spells with later on, and the rest of your buttons being incredibly slowly introduced to use for the first 25 or so hours that the campaign took me. You will eventually gain a dash, more and more spells, wall jumps, and even more, but it does take a very long time. Once you have your full package, the game goes from okay but a bit bland to truly fantastic feeling. Compared to something like Ori and the Will of the Wisps, the lack of a convenient fast travel option and the forced amount of backtracking, though, makes this one of the worst games I've ever played when it comes to respecting your time. Those fast travel hubs are few and far between, and the best movement ability comes near the very end of everything. Quite often, progression is just you kind of blindly flailing in the dark as you try to remember, have I been here before, because the map system is atrocious. Area maps must be purchased from an NPC you'll find in each area for a small amount of the game's only currency, Geo. To update said map, you must travel around the area and then sit on a checkpoint bench, which is also few and far between. This ended up leading to an experience where every time you get enough of a map, you're most likely done with that area, and the entire time you were learning it, you had no map to reference. It's the biggest and most talked about issue with the game, and it's a shame because as negative as this has all sounded, once you get all your abilities, have unlocked the majority of the map and fast travel points, the game is freaking awesome thanks to some of the best boss fights I've ever played, and there's a lot of them. That overall number of bosses, some who repeat multiple times, is 47, including one joke boss, in the base game, and they're all good while many are truly great. The combat and gameplay in the title are precise, and it rarely feels cheap. One issue that crops up again, though, are the corpse runs after dying, which can be quite long and are full of respawned enemies. It's like they took every bad part of Dark Souls and made sure it was a highlight of the game. Thankfully, it's also well balanced, and the controls feel so good that it rarely took me more than 2 or 3 tries to defeat a boss. And it is what kept me pushing ahead, despite all the other issues I was having with the early game. Graphically, it's damned pretty with a moody style that fits the story well, and it's accompanied by stellar animations. The soundtrack is fantastic as well. It's not super memorable, but it keeps that somber mood and is complemented with a small amount of okay to rather humorous voice work. It's not in a language we understand, but it's in a tone that we get. There are no real accessibility or difficulty options on hand, unfortunately, but the upgrade and pin system can help tailor the gameplay to your preferences. That Geo, which I mentioned before, drops from every enemy and can be used at various shops to unlock pins. These are buffs with various costs that you'll either find or buy throughout the game. There are some solid and powerful builds out there, I'm sure, but I ended up sticking with a few that made it easier to gain back focus and pick up Geo by having it float towards me, and the main pin I always had on was one that helped me gain focus whenever I hit enemies, as holding down B can use that focus to heal yourself, and figuring out the timing of this during boss fights and exploration is one of the biggest keys to never dying, because dying in this game sucks due to those long runbacks, and you lose all your Geo and have to retrieve it, Dark Souls style. In conclusion, Hollow Knight Voidheart Edition is an eventually great game. It requires a ton of patience to see through, so even though it's on Game Pass, you need to make sure you're willing to commit that much time because boy, does it start slow and make some head-scratching decisions when it comes to the map and exploration. But if you can hold on for a solid 10 or 15 hours though, you'll end up finishing one of the best second halves of a game in the past generation. Thank you as always for watching. If you can like, comment, and subscribe, it really does help the channel grow because YouTube wants you to like us. And we'll see you here next time on XboxEra.